Ah yes, meat. I'm sure we're all familiar with meat. The meatpacking industry has a very interesting history, into which Chicago plays a major role. But I'll get to that later. First, let's talk about meat. Meat has become a cultural phenomenon. Some men go as far as to throw exclusive parties known as sausage fests, wherein meat is celebrated and cooked, usually accompanying some sort of sport game. And some people even like meat so much that they go to great lengths to hide it from others, as seen here. All those Slim Jims, man. Whoops. Caught in the act. Now, as I said before, meatpacking has a very interesting history. However, there have been some major problems. Let's take a look at one of the problems that may have occurred in the 1900s.
Oh God!
Ouch! Let's take a look into what happened.
What the hell was in here? Jesus Christ! It's such a waste of spam. What is this, a key? Anything else? This staples? Oh, this is big. I can feel this. I don't even know what this is. Good God! And this was in my meat!
Now, let's take a look at a problem that could occur today.
Oh, is that hair?
Now, let's delve a bit further into the history of the meatpacking industry in Chicago and try to make sense of the clips you just watched. In the 19th century, Chicago was known as the transportation hub of the nation. This was because of the large number of railroads located in Chicago. The meatpacking industry depended on those railroads, and specifically refrigerated railroad cars. Chicago's few meatpacking plants took off in popularity over the course of the years, and eventually there was a need for a centralized stockyard. Thus, the Union Stockyards were created in 1865. Opening on Christmas Day, the yards, as they were known, were the heart of meat production in the United States. They grew up to the size of 1 square mile, spreading from Halsted Street to Ashland Avenue and from 39th Street to 47th Street. For size reference, the city of Hometown is about a square mile around. The yards provided jobs for thousands upon thousands of people, mostly German, Irish, and Italian immigrants, and the industry flourished. However, the conditions of the yards were not very good. The yards were disgustingly filthy, and the workers put up with these conditions regardless. Animals were slaughtered on rat-infested, bloody floors. Rats, garbage, metal, glass, and other filth found its way into the meat and lard products, and the plants overall had a dingy, dirty feel to them. The workers had it even worse. Workers were manipulated and treated like dogs. If a worker fell ill or was injured by a machine, they would be sent home and immediately replaced by somebody else able to do the work. Workers made very low wages, could easily work up to 12 hours a day, received no benefits, and worked in completely unsanitary and unsafe conditions. A journalist finally caught wind of this. The muckrakers, who were journalists that uncovered the flaws in social and political issues of their time, usually with their own propaganda-like spin, set their sights on Chicago. Most importantly, socialist author Upton Sinclair paid a visit to the yards and then wrote his muckraking novel, The Jungle. The Jungle aimed to expose the horrid working conditions of the yards. However, people were more concerned about the disgusting things Sinclair wrote about than the safety and well-being of the workers. Sinclair is famously quoted as saying, "I aimed at the public's heart, and by accident I hit it in the stomach." Some people thought the book was really gross, as seen here. Theodore Roosevelt finally agreed to read the novel after being relentlessly pestered about it. He was taken aback and launched an investigation of the yards, led by P. Neal and James B. Reynolds. They reported back and discovered that Sinclair's claims had been mostly true. The conditions of the plants were horrifying. This led to the passing of the Meat Inspection Act of 1906 and the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, which eventually led to the creation of the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. Since then, meat quality has improved greatly. However, even with all the new legislature and regular inspections, there are still problems with meat being unclean, and there have been many meat recalls in the United States. The most notorious taking place just this February, when the Hallmark Meat Company had 147 million pounds of processed beef recalled because they were processing diseased cattle in blatant disregard for FDA standards.
By law, cattle that can't walk may not be slaughtered for meat because of the higher likelihood they've been infected with disease. So far, 5 felony and 3 misdemeanor animal cruelty charges have been filed in the case. 2 employees have already been fired.
The conditions for the workers at the yards eventually got better. The establishment of the Congress of Industrial Organizations, or CIO, and the intervention of the American Federation of Labor, or AFL, provided the formation of many industrial labor unions, the most important being the United Packing House Workers of America, or UPWA, which helped to raise the wages the workers received, make the plants safer and cleaner, give the employees benefits, and ultimately give them more rights as laborers. With time, advancements in technology and the formation of meat processing and packing plants across the rest of the nation, the yards were finally closed in 1971, signifying the decentralization of the industry. However, even with such drastic intervention and union formation, the meatpacking industry was still plagued with being one of the most dangerous industries in which to hold a job. Workers were still unsafe, and their wages had dropped steadily to a minuscule $11.47 per hour in 2006. Most unions disbanded or workers never joined them. In 2006, only 50% of meatpacking industry workers were in a union. In terms of the workforce, the meatpacking industry still needs some reform. In conclusion, the meatpacking industry would have never taken off if not for Chicago. Chicago provided most of the meat for the United States from the late 1800s until about the 1940s. Chicago's continued growth as a city depended entirely upon the jobs the Union stockyards provided. Conditions were bad, but they got better. However, as stated before, there is still a call for nationwide labor reform in the meatpacking industry. Ultimately, the meatpacking industry is easily one of the most important aspects of Chicago's rich, full history.